Lyft keeps taking a beating on the stock market, but you know what? Their new business venture sounds pretty smart. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and we all know that rideshare is not going to be where the money is, at least not for the immediate future. Unless Uber and Lyft significantly want to restructure the way it works, and that means charging passengers what the ride's worth, paying the drivers what they're worth, and minimizing how many cars are on the road. This is not going to be a sustainable business. The problem is it's also their main business, but they have been trying to branch out into other areas. Both Uber and Lyft are getting into scooters. And Uber has Uber Eats, which I hear is way more profitable than their ride-sharing business. Lyft does not have a food delivery program. I suspect at one point they will. They just can't ignore it forever. But they are getting into a business that makes a lot of sense. And really, it's quite brilliant when you get down to it. And that is car rentals. And they're experimenting in San Francisco, where they're headquartered. So here's what the app looks like. You can reserve your rental. Where are you going? What kind of car do you want? And here's like all the extras. You could put people on. You could get the collision. So basically, this is how like Hertz and see, I don't rent cars too often. I really just know Hertz. But yeah, this is what it's going to look like. So the article says, between offering an on-demand rides and peppering cities with electric scooters, Lyft has been pushing hard to minimize the need to actually own a car. Now the company is exploring yet another way to further those ambitions and boost its bottom line after a turbulent IPO in the process. Engadget has learned that as of this week, Lyft has begun to experiment with longer-term car rentals, offering them to a small group of customers in San Francisco. Quote, we're constantly adding multi-model options so people can use Lyft for any kind of trip, said a spokesperson in an email confirming the program. We've added bikes, scooters, and public transit info into the app in cities across the country, and we're currently testing a small-scale rental option for long-distance trips like a weekend away. While pricing isn't set in stone just yet, the first batch of Lyft renters can expect to pay about $60 a day for a standard sedan and around $100 a day for an SUV. Now, I typically just get standard cars, which, isn't quite $60. So I don't know if that's a good deal for those types of cars. But hey, you know what? It sounds profitable. That's what I'll say. That sounds profitable. But, again, I don't typically rent sedans or SUVs. I normally rent Toyotas, to be honest, or Hondas. According to images obtained by Engadget, potential renters will be able to claim up to $20 in Lyft credit for rides to the company's rental lot in the Mission and can request additional accessories like bike racks and tire chains at no additional cost. Although I suspect at some point those will be an additional cost because that's how they will make a lot more money doing this. All right. At this point, it's not clear how many people Lyft has, sorry folks, invited to participate in this test or how many vehicles are available to rent. We do know a few things for sure though. For one, these are brand new cars, not vehicles owned by Lyft's network of existing rideshare drivers. Thank goodness. The wheels would probably be falling off. That doesn't just make for a better renting experience, it also insulates Lyft against some very specific complaints from rental car companies. There is no cap on how many miles can be driven in a day, and there is no options for hourly rentals. The minimum rental period is 1 day, and users can hang onto those cars for up to 2 weeks. While this test program seems to fit nicely with Lyft's overall vision, its biggest rival has also proved that branching out into car rentals is no easy feat. Around this time last year, Uber launched a similar program in partnership with GetAround that would let would-be drivers use cars on offer from private owners. Yeah, but that was for drivers. From what I'm reading about this Lyft program, this is not for drivers per se. I mean, there's probably nothing that says a driver couldn't use these vehicles for their own personal use, but it seems like this is just for the general public. And by the way, if you want to use like a vehicle for rideshare, they have Fare, and I think Lyft has a rental program where if you do so many rides for the week, you get the rental for free pretty much. So yeah, it's very different from Uber's partnership with GetAround. Uber Rent, as the service was called, only operated for 7 months before being shut down in November 2018 because they lost too much money. That was still one of the funniest things about this whole thing, that the media seemed to overlook because they weren't necessarily anti-Uber yet, is that Uber had a car rental program for their drivers that they shut down because it wasn't profitable, which should have given people a clue like, well, if Uber can't make it profitable on their end, what makes you think you can make it profitable on your end? I know some people do, but you get what I'm saying. The news also comes at a different time for Lyft. In its first earnings release after its IPO in late March, the company reported a quarterly loss north of $1 billion. At the time, CFO Ryan Roberts called the 2019 Lyft's peak loss year before suggesting the ride-sharing giant would inch towards profitability thanks to investments in scooters and bike development, plus the company's work in getting autonomous cars onto public roads. Now, here's the obvious. That was the other one. Here's where it's brilliant for Lyft. Aside from the fact that the car rental service is something we know is profitable, we know people use it, and hey, if you can put it on the app and you can save people the hassle of going to a building to pick out their car, and you can give them like a little Lyft credit to get them to the place, like, that's great synergy right there. That is absolutely wonderful synergy. But here's the other thing. Lyft is now starting to buy cars. Think about it. They're starting to buy cars. And if they want to head towards an autonomous future without drivers, eventually some of these cars will be autonomous. Eventually. We're still talking like 10, 15 years down the road. And as the whole thing continues to build, at some point when they decide they no longer want the drivers, they have got a fleet of autonomous cars that they own, that the public has essentially paid for, and they're going to use it. It's really quite genius. It kind of briefly makes me believe, like, yeah, the self-driving car revolution can save Lyft. Now, we all know that. Now, I know that's not true. I know that the self-driving cars are nowhere near. The robo-taxis aren't taking over anytime soon. And most engineers are even saying, like, yeah, that's kind of a BS thing. These things aren't even close to being ready. But this is a good way for for Lyft to make money, decent money. I hear there's a lot of good money in car rental businesses. And they could make this very profitable. It can offset the rideshare losses. And they can start owning their own vehicles. And then they become more valuable as a result of the, machines they own. So yeah, this makes perfect sense for Lyft. And I wouldn't be surprised if their stock actually goes up a little bit as a result of this news, depending on how big it gets. I mean, I'm certainly talking about it. We'll have to see how everyone else talks about it. But with that said, what says you? Do you agree that this is going to be a big deal? Or do you think, nah, Kevin, you're overthinking this. This is not going to be that big of a deal. I would love to know. So comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, of course, but even as little as $1 a month goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly, and you get access to my Patreon's exclusive blog. Also, check out the Get Upside app below. It's a gas rewards program. You get cash back for every gas purchase you make, and by the way, it's totally free. Check out the Apptrepreneur Vlogs channel. We're starting to upload content on a daily basis, including some stories that we just did not have time to cover today. And check us out on the Apptrepreneur Hangouts on Facebook. You have to be approved, but we've been approving most people. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.